Good evening, everyone. It's a blessed evening where we bring to you the Gorgeous Woman Show again. And I can tell you we are ready for inspiration. We are ready to be challenged, to be empowered as women, because I believe only another woman can empower another woman better. Because as women, we understand each other very well emotionally. Our experiences, they may be different, but we all can learn from each other. And as always, I'm your host, Reverend Ruth Wamoyo. Always an excitement to have you on board, and make sure you don't touch that dial. Call another woman, call another girl. Let them know it's Gorgeous Woman time. Amen. And as always, I have a wonderful guest, an entrepreneur, a woman that has gone through it all. My goodness, you hear her story. Is a story of rising up from a fall and taking it to the next level. And I have Jane Kagiri with me, and karibu sana Jane. It's always a joy to have a guest in Gorgeous.
Thank you so much.
And this is your turn. Can you tell us who Jane is, where you come from, what number you are in your family, how your parents are? Describe to us your childhood in like 3 minutes.
Okay. My name, as you've rightly mentioned, is Jane Kagiri.
Yes.
And I come from Laikipia County in a family of 4 children and 2 parents.
Okay.
And I'm the last born.
Oh, beautiful. Yes. It must be fun being a last born.
It is fun, and all the same time you're forced to be a fighter.
Oh, why is that?
Seems to be taken by the older ones here.
I know, I have my last born and I see she has this aggressive. Can you tell us more about last borns? Why do you feel that obligation to fight?
We tend to feel like we are forgotten, or everybody else first gets their place, then as we come as number last. So now we're always busy pushing to see where we can come in to be at the top, yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But it's always fun because you have many choices.
It's true.
Because you can go to sister so, brother so, and you're always pampered at times.
It is very true.
Yeah.
At least you get, and then you also get their hand-me-downs, and whatever they don't like, they always throw to you. So sometimes it's an advantage, yeah.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah, so how was your childhood like? How would you describe it?
The first thing I would want to mention is that my mother says when I was born, I was born with a clenched fist. And so immediately she knew she had born a fighter.
Oh!
And the funny thing is that my life since then has just been a life of fighting and trying to get my space. And now it's when my mother tells me, I actually now know why you were born with a clenched fist, because God knew you were tough. Yeah. And he knew he was sending you to a tough world, and he needed you to be prepared.
Great.
So that is how my childhood has been, my childhood was. And then I remember as we were growing up, when I was around 8 years old, my parents, who are retired teachers, were transferred to a different town. And I remember we had to go to boarding school.
Oh,
my siblings and I. So I was 8 years old, mother, sister.
In class 2 maybe?
Yes, that was class 3 actually. Yeah. That's when I went to boarding school. So my sister was in class 4, my other sister class 5, and my brother was in class 6. And so I remember going to boarding school. What I thought was boarding school was that your parent goes to work, you go to school, in the evening you meet on that small bed and you sleep. And
you can imagine, born a fighter.
Imagine.
And now you're thrown into the ocean to figure out how you're going to get out.
Exactly. So now that's what happened. So in the evening when my mother finished helping us settle, she said, no, Jane, now it's time for me to go home. Till today, Reverend, I remember the scream that belted that school. Nobody will ever forget, because I cried my heart out.
I can imagine.
And I kept asking everybody, why didn't anybody tell me what is boarding? Because I thought boarding was your mother goes to work, you go to school.
And then you meet in the small bed, and sleep in the small bed.
So it was the most difficult separation I've ever seen, for my mom to have to leave me. And she knew it was so painful because she didn't also understand why she had to leave me.
Yeah.
A long story short, the fighter in me survived. And that, I can tell you, was the last time I was ever with my parents again. Because after that, I went to high school, which was boarding school. Immediately, I completed my high school. Again, I left for India when I was 18 years old to study for my degree. And
so you grew up so fast?
I grew up so fast, and then I grew independent at a very early age. Which, again, when I look back, I'm like, that's what God meant it to be. Because I've been able to inspire so many people through my journey and showing them these things, you can actually survive them. Yeah.
Wow, what a beginning. And I can tell you for a fact, we are in for a great story ahead, because it doesn't end there. And see you after the break. Yeah, always excited to host the Gorgeous Woman Show. You get to hear stories that inspire me as well. And Jane Kagiri has her story. So at the age of 8, you are left in this boarding school. So how was life there in the boarding school? And probably to other parents there, what would you advise parents that take their children to boarding school?
For me, I would say my experience on day one was bad because I felt sad about it. But looking back, I think, especially for the journey I've journeyed in my life, if that part had missed out, I don't think I would be the woman I am today. And the beauty about boarding school is also I would want to tell parents to do their research and ensure it is a very good school. We were fortunate to be at the now known Nyeri Primary School. Back then it was called Moi Nyeri Complex. And I remember it was the who's who children who used to be in that school.
It used to be a prestigious
It was a very prestigious school, despite it being a government school. And I remember what made me stop crying on the first day when I said, no, when my mom had to leave, is there was a very tiny girl, and this girl was in nursery school. And she was so small, and she came and told me, you girl, why are you crying? Stop crying. So immediately my tears dried, and I was like, oh, there's a younger one than me who is here. So till date, this lady is in the US, but I keep telling her, you dried my tears in a second, because she was that young. She was very young. So what used to happen is you'd find the matrons, of course, different reasons had made people end up, parents bringing their kids there for boarding school. But what was very interesting is the nurturing that I saw there. Because like for this little girl, the matron would come in the morning, wash her with hot water and all that. And that's why she didn't think there was a problem anywhere.
Yeah, because life was normal to her.
Life was very normal. So for me, what I would tell parents is, if their homework is well done, I don't think there's a fault in taking children to boarding school at that early age. And then just to add, for us, it was our choice. Because now when my parents got the transfer, we had a choice to either become day scholars or become boarders in that school. And of course, at that age, you don't want to leave your friends. You're so used to this life. So we just told our parents to go.
It was not a change of school. It was just the same.
Yes, the school remained the same. And then what was so funny is also for our parents, they didn't expect me to accept to go to boarding school. But me, I thought it's this thing of your mom comes in the evening, so I was very ready. And none of my siblings thought I didn't know the meaning of boarding school. So that is how I got into boarding school. But if I had known that you don't sleep at the end of the day with your mother in the same bed, I would not have accepted.
You would have accepted. Oh, great. And now your journey, you said you went to India. So what did you go to study?
Yes, in the year 2000, after completing my KCSE, I remember being very passionate about studying computers. And I started doing research locally, looking around and trying to see where I would go and study computer science. Then I remember one day, again, thanks to boarding school, I'd studied in Othaya Girls High School. And while in school, there's a friend of mine who one day called me after we had completed Form 4, and she told me, but then Jane, there's this opportunity to go to India. So she tells me, and I'm like, India, are they good in computer science? So the lady tells me, yes, Jane, they're very good in computer science. In fact, I remember that same week, the fighter in me again had attended an interview for joining the Defense Forces. And I had
my goodness.
So I was just waiting to join.
So I'm sitting next to somebody who was supposed to be KDF.
Exactly. In fact, I normally look at my friends who are there and I'm like, so now I would be a major, I would be a what? So I keep rating myself with them. But no, I believe it's just how God has planned our lives. The same week after I passed the interview, is the same week my friend called me. And then she told me, Jane, are you not sure you don't, are you sure you don't want to go to India? Of course, today she tells me it was for a selfish reason because she didn't want to go alone. But now for me, again, it added an advantage because here I was looking for a university that trained computer science. India is known to be the best. And so I took off and we left for India and we were there for me, I was there for 5 years.
And how was it in India?
That's a whole story by itself.
Please, can you narrate it to us? Just in brief, tell us how it was. A language barrier. Cultural, that cultural shock. Where the culture is totally different. And yet you're a student.
So what the greatest experience I remember when I first joined India is that, joined the university in India, is that I had to stay at a hostel. And so at this hostel, most Indians tend to be vegetarian. So that was my first culture shock, that you can't have meat, you can't bring in meat to the hostel, which of course their food is very delicious. In fact, today, if you serve me food without chili, I cannot eat that food. Because it tastes like food without salt. So India at least taught me to love chili. And at the hostel, what I also appreciated is that they were so loving, they were so nurturing, and they took really, really good care of me.
Great.
And I believe that was my first encounter with what it means to be good without expecting any expectations.
Wow.
Because here were people who took care of me like their own sibling. Parents who took to, the owners of the hostel took care of me like they were my real parents.
Were they African or Indian?
No, Indians, purely Indians.
Oh, goodness.
And they held me and took care of me for the first 1 year that I was there, because now within the second year I wanted now to move into my own house, make my own meals, eat non-vegetarian as much as I would have wanted. So that was a beautiful experience for the first year. And then of course in college there was a lot of culture shock.
Yes.
So to them as well as to me, because first of all everybody looked at my hair, they're like, why is your hair like springs? There are those who want to touch you and check if your skin comes off. Then you'd be passing in a neighborhood, a girl sees you and screams to her sister, let's run. And indirectly you can tell it's like she's told her sister, run, a monster is coming.
Oh,
so there was all that culture shock. But eventually you get so used to it and it just becomes
normal.
It becomes normal at the end of the day. Yeah.
Wow. So now after the 5 years, you now came back to Kenya?
Yes. Now after the 5 years, well in India, I managed to study computer science. Then I also did 2 diplomas, one in international business management, another in public relations and advertising, and I also did an advanced diploma in multimedia.
Oh, great.
Why I like mentioning those 5 qualifications is because I have come to realize sometimes you don't know God plans your life.
Yes.
And you're thinking, why am I doing all these things? But God knows what you're headed for, and so he prepares you for everything that is about to happen.
Yeah.
So when I came back from India, I remember, and one of the culture shocks I also got in India is, and maybe it's something we need to correct as a country. India, you sit, Reverend, with your lecturer like this. You tell her, by the way, today you spoke and I had nothing.
Wow.
And she'll tell you, when can we get time to repeat everything that I spoke about? Here we have a fear of our teachers, a fear of our lecturers,
there is,
which I think is
a senior-junior relationship.
Exactly. And you know, with India, the respect is there. The professor walks in, you stand up. Even when you're addressing her, you address her with utmost respect. But beyond that, she is your friend. So she's somebody you can tell, by the way, statistics is becoming really tough. This engineering mathematics, I cannot understand. And she'll come and actually take you through everything. So that is something I really admired about them. And then I remember something else our professors used to tell us. They'd always keep reminding us, you should be an employment generator, not an employee. So when I came back to the country and I tried getting employment, of course I was feeling I was very marketable. Here I am with all my courses.
I can imagine.
Where can't anybody give me a job? So I job hunted like for 1 year. Then one day I woke up and said, what is all this mess? I can't get a job. My professors used to tell me I should be an employer. Why am I rethinking what I should be doing? So one day I woke up and I decided I was going to become an employer. But guess what? The day I decided is the day all the banks responded, all the development organizations responded, and you can imagine I had to make a hard decision of saying, no, I have already made my decision, I'm not going into employment.
Wow.
So in short, I have never been employed even for a day.
Wow.
But you can imagine the tests and trials that follow after that. You've turned down all these many jobs, you've decided to employ yourself. You can't afford a meal, you can't afford everything. And you know, at that point, from a point of love, your family looks at you and asks you, Jane, what do you want with yourself?
Because after they've supported you through college, they expect you at least now to be on your feet.
Exactly. And now here you are borrowing them, and yet you have refused to get employed. So to a point, they would look at me and think, is this lady just lazy, or what happened to her when she traveled out of the country? So nobody could understand. In fact, we always make this joke with my mom, where we'd, whenever we met people, she'd introduce my siblings. This one works for wherever, this one works for wherever, this one works for wherever. And this one is one who studied in India. So I used to keep asking her, Mom, can you just say I am self-employed? But you see, for a parent, it is so difficult, because even today when we keep telling people, let's support entrepreneurship, I keep challenging parents, before you even talk about the government, how proud are you as a parent?
I tell you.
Can you be able to go to your
just
chama?
Like telling your parent you're a comedian or a musician.
Exactly.
They don't take you seriously.
Yeah, they don't even know how to introduce you. You need to tell them how to, what do you do?
Wow.
So I keep challenging parents and telling them, they're the ones who are actually breaking the hearts of their children. Of course, today my mom laughs and she's like, me, I didn't even used to notice that's what I used to do. I'm like, that is what you used to do.
Self-employed, of course, has a connotation like you're jobless.
Exactly. And then they're like, after she did all that, why
Why
would she
did
choose
she
to be
employ herself?
self-employed?
Yeah.
So that's what actually happened until that period. So one day I just decided I was not going to be employed. And now look at it. Here I was starting my own company. The international business management course came in because I could manage my work. Remember, you are the first employee of your own company.
Oh, yes, you are.
My public relations course came in.
Yes.
My computer science, nobody could tell me what a computer can do or cannot do.
Yeah.
Because, you know, all these guys, you need something repaired. They make it sound like it's
like
such a big
major
thing. And then, of course, my advanced multimedia came in because I did my logo, I did my everything.
Oh.
My business cards, my letterheads were all done by me.
How beautiful.
So here I was, all in one, and ready to start my business.
Oh,
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
What an inspiration. If you're a lady there, you're a woman, and you feel like you have to be employed, maybe it's time to rethink and just say, could there be something that I can do with what I have? You don't have to be advantaged, you know, like even like for Jane, praise God, she had all the degree and all those certificates, but you can begin from where you are. And I believe that's the meaning of a gorgeous woman, is a woman that uses what she has and takes it to the next level. Let's see you after the break. Welcome back, and as always, we are having a gorgeous woman as my guest, an entrepreneur, a lady with a story that will inspire you. Jane Kagiri is her name. So nice to have you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you now begin a class. So where did you begin? Now you have all this knowledge.
Yes.
So break it down for us. How did you begin? Because there could be somebody watching and they are saying, I don't have a lot of money. Where do I begin?
Yes.
Yeah.
So now how I began is I was very naive. So first of all, I thought, the first thing I thought is government is the biggest spender in any economy.
Yeah.
So I think I'll first start by introducing myself to the government.
Yeah.
So naively, I would walk to government offices, look for the procurement office, and just tell them, you know, I can supply you with anything you want. Then they're like, no, that's not how it's done. You need to pre-qualify, and they would read out all these things. Then, by then, they actually used to charge you 3,000 per category for you to pre-qualify in government. So I looked at that whole scenario and I wondered, where am I going to start? First, I don't even have bus fare itself, and I'm trying to act all independent. So how do I start again paying money for business that I'm not even assured I'll get? So funny enough, and there's so many gorgeous women in this country. Yeah. I remember one day walking to Ministry of Information and Communication, and I met an old lady there in the procurement department. And as usual, I marketed myself. This lady looked at me and asked me, let me ask you, do you have a company? I said, no. In fact, I am all through, I'm marketing myself as me. All these stories I was telling about the logos and things came much later. So I am so naively just walking in saying what I can do and it. So this lady looked at me and told me, so you don't have a company? But do you know anybody who has a company? I said, yes, I know a friend of mine who has a company. So this lady told me, we urgently need envelopes, and these ones don't require a long process. So she gave me a quotation, which I went and filled with my friend who has a company. We stamped and returned it. The value of that LPO was worth 7,000 shillings. So we spent 4,000 shillings to supply. There was VAT, and each of us was left with 1,000 bob. But guess what? My 1,000 bob is what I used to register my company. Because back then you could register a sole proprietorship for 800 shillings. Yeah,
800 shillings.
Exactly. Yes. So I went, registered my business, and now I was more than confident.
I can imagine carrying that certificate.
Yes. Yeah. And say, I now have my company. This is what I can do for you.
Wow.
So that is how I began, and slowly I started getting very small jobs. I started engaging Equity Bank, the Youth Enterprise Fund, and I was able to start getting some income. However, during that same period, there's something I noticed, and I looked at this situation, my situation, and I wondered, I'm a young person, the government cannot give me business, cannot give me a job. I'm trying to start my own business. Anytime I try to penetrate the government business, they'll tell me, oh, you lack experience, you lack finances, what is your capacity, where is your office located, and all those things. So I looked at that scenario, I'm like, this is a government telling you move, but before you move, they have a string to pull you back.
It is true.
And so I started agitating and asking questions. Anytime there was a forum, I would ask, why are you putting us against established companies? We need to be on a different playing field for us to succeed. And of course, the fighter in me 2010, I declared my candidature for Laikipia County Women Representative.
Jesus
Because
Christ.
I knew I needed to fight for young people.
Oh my goodness.
And I needed to do it at the policy making
Were
level.
your parents in support of that?
My parents were in support, but my dad was very worried for me.
Yes.
Because I remember him telling me, it's the thing I want to do. And I remember looking at him and telling him, Dad, you taught me how to dream. Allow me now to pursue that dream. So after that, he of course had nothing else to say, and they prayed, they supported me. And as we would say, I did not win the election. Otherwise, I would be in parliament.
Definitely, I can tell who you are, who your competitor was.
Exactly, yes, yes. So, in fact, no, that was the previous election,
the
2013
not this
one. Yeah,
one.
no,
Okay.
this one,
Yeah,
the 2013 one. So, so I lost the election, and with it, I lost everything that would be associated with me. By then, I'd been able to establish my company. It had grown. But what I failed to realize, and today I would want to tell any person, I remember when I declared my candidature, somebody asked me, Jane, have you gone for counseling? And I remember thinking, no. Why would anybody need counseling? Just to go speak, seek for votes, come back and talk to people. After I lost the election, that's when that lady's words hit my mind. Because even when you're going for that election, somebody needs to tell you, don't spend everything, reserve something. Somebody needs to also tell you, you could win or you could not win.
Yeah, but you know, when in politics, you go to win.
Exactly.
Yeah,
There's
win. Yeah.
In fact, option A is win, option B is win. But there needs to be somebody who is like the devil's advocate, who keeps telling you, even if they're telling you it's you, anything could change.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, no, in 2013, I went with a small party, which was not our party the government considered to be its party.
Yeah.
And so as much as we were popular, it just required the arrival of the presidential candidate a day before the election. And we knew we were flat
changed,
and out.
Yeah.
In fact, people that could no longer hide, they were like, no, we need to go with our person. Wow. So that is what actually happened. And what lessons I drew from that season was I needed that season in my life. Because, Reverend, if I would tell you, before 2013, my phone was like a booth. 100, 200 calls, people, every hour you are on call, a friend, a what. But the minute I went down, the calls went quiet. But what people forget also, and what later on I came to appreciate, is God must have allowed me to lose because he wanted to allow me to enjoy the fruits of my labor.
It's true.
Because after the 2013 election, if you remember, it is when the president declared 30% of procurement goes to women, youth, and persons with disability.
Yes.
That is exactly what I'd been agitating for. Wow. Because I kept asking, why don't you make me compete against a fellow youth? Make a woman compete against another woman. Yeah. Make a person with disability compete against another person with disability. That way we can grow. But you can't tell me with nothing to compete with an industrialist. I will never win in that competition.
You can never win,
So later on, so of course 2013, everything went down. And I realized I still had my company with me. So when the president declared that, I made my office Hilton Jobless Corner. And I would wake up every day and go there and sit, because another message I always like to tell people is never allow yourself to be in the house, even at your worst. Because I keep saying there's no opportunity.
It's true.
Apart from a glass that will fall or a plate that will fall, nobody can change your fortunes when you're inside the house. Yeah. So I kept every day I would come to, in fact, the days I would walk, because my house is in South B. I would walk from South B to town, come to Jobless Corner and sit. Then one day I acquired my guts again and I was like, let me start visiting government offices again. Wow. Slowly, the work came back. And I would say my comeback from 2013 to where I am today has been the effort of family and genuine good friends who stood with me. Oh, wow. People who kept telling me, Jane, we know you'll be back. Jane, you cannot afford to give back. But it's at that point you get to know who is genuine to you and who is true to you. Yeah. So even when I got back on my feet, I was like, anybody who dropped off, their season had ended in my life. It's and true. It was time to continue moving. Of course, no grudge, nothing, because you understand that's how human beings are created.
That's how human beings are.
But at least you become wiser and you move on with life as it comes. Yes.
So what were the most, probably the lowest moment when you're doing your campaigns?
Yes.
Because I can imagine being a woman and you're in the campaign trail, as much as you are vying for the women rep, post, there could be some bad things and weird things you felt because you are a woman.
Yes.
Do you have any memory of such?
I have quite a number of memories, but the bigger chunk of my memories are the sweet ones and the beautiful ones.
Yeah.
Because I remember like one day, and this has remained engraved in my mind. One day I was driving in a place called Gobit. And I stopped by, I found a drunk guy. It was on early Sunday morning. So this guy looks at me and tells me, Ati, hey, me, I like you and I can assure you I will vote for you. But even if you don't win the election, you just know it went according to God's plan. He has bigger and better plans for you.
And he was drunk.
He was extremely drunk, crawling on the road. But guess what? The day I lost, this is the first guy I remembered. Because I was like, this guy already told me if it doesn't go well, it's God's plan and he has bigger and better plans for me. So I looked, of course, during that journey, I found very many good people and good support. However, as we say, there's also the downside. And unfortunately for me, the downside and the most shocking was what came from other women, and especially other women leaders.
Wow.
Because I remember at the age of, when I was contesting, I was 20-something, and maybe got to the election when I just turned 30 or something. And I remember them telling me, I'm not a complete woman. Till today, I'm yet to understand what a complete woman means. Because being younger than you does not mean I am incomplete.
Fellow women.
Yes. Another woman being a mother and you're not yet a mother does not mean you're not complete.
It's true.
And another woman maybe being married and you're not married does not mean they're complete.
Yeah.
So I looked at that scenario and maybe that's what made me make a resolve. And I said, God help me, I will not get a child out of wedlock to please the masses. And I also said, God help me, I will not get married to somebody just to please the masses. I will get married to somebody I love, somebody I care for, and somebody I know we are meant to be together. Because politics has what it wants to dictate for you, and it wants to tell you tomorrow you have to be this.
It's true.
Those are things that I just made a conscious decision, and I was like, God help me. One day I will prove to people that you don't have to go according to that song. But that is the most, in fact, I think that was the most humiliating experience.
Did they say it in a public forum or?
Yes, they say it in public forums. And the other sad thing is that when you are in politics and you are not married, everybody becomes your spouse by delegation.
Especially if they are male and they are near you.
Exactly. So in fact, I remember still another funny incident. One of the bishops came and asked me, Jane, you know, I'm so worried. People are saying you're with that man. So I told him, I patted him on his shoulder and told him, Bishop, don't worry. Tomorrow it's you I'll be with, because we've been seen together. So it's too late for you to say you are not mine. So Bishop laughed, and from then on it became a beautiful joke. So everybody used to say, no, me, Jane is mine, Jane is mine, Jane is mine. Because the other thing with politics, and I learned, is if you stand to defend or you start pleading, please don't do these things. So now when they started saying that, I would stand in the rally and say, when I'm being insulted, it is you being insulted. Because I would ask the young men, if these people had empowered you enough to have jobs, today you'd confidently be coming to propose to me. But now because you feel you are lower than me or you're not in the position you want to be, that is why you're a bit hesitant to do this thing. And it became a movement.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
How nice.
Yes.
I love your courage. I love your determination.
Thank you.
And of course, as always, I would advocate that every woman fight for their dream.
It is true.
Because, and the greatest challenge we have is that women fight women.
It's true.
And it's so sad.
We
should be our sisters' keepers.
It's
and
true.
make sure that when somebody has a dream, even if you don't agree with them, disagree in a decent way.
It is
but calling you an incomplete woman because you're not married and you don't have a child, you know, that's the biggest insult you can ever share with another woman. But we appreciate you for sharing with us. So now, are you married?
I'm not yet married, still waiting upon God.
Amen.
And I know it should happen soon.
Amen. Is there anyone around the corner, or we are still praying?
There's somebody around the corner, as well as we're still praying.
Oh, glory to God. Amen.
Yes.
What a guest, an inspiration from Jane Kagiri, a story of fighting through politics, you know, education, you know, singlehood and everything. And she looks like she's determined to make it all the way. And I believe that's the spirit we should have, the spirit of a warrior, saying like Deborah, I am going to take this. If no man is ready to take it, a woman will take it. And I believe that woman is you. See you after the break. Welcome back, our viewer. My guest is Jane Kagiri, and she's sharing with us about her journey in politics, her journey through entrepreneurship, her journey as a woman, and here we are. Thank you, Jane, again for sharing your story.
Thank you.
So where do you see yourself? Do you think you're going to vie for a political seat again?
Yes, God willing, 2022, I'll be back.
Amen. Hey, tell us more.
I will be back.
Yeah.
I'm still weighing and seeing what position, but God willing, I'll be back.
Okay.
Yes.
Which county?
Laikipia County.
Laikipia County.
Yes, Laikipia County.
Great. What is this in you? Because is politics a core? Is it probably a conviction, or what really makes you know that politics is your thing? Because I've had people come and tell me, I feel like I need to vie for a political seat, but I'm worried, is it the right decision to make? So at what point did you know that this is for me?
Sometimes I tend to think it's something that is inborn, because I cannot even place the day that I woke up and said, I'm going for this thing.
Yeah.
I just remember one day I declared, there was no prior planning or something. So sometimes I tend to think maybe it's the voice of God that prompts you, know, it's time for you to do this thing.
Yeah.
And what also confirms to me that it's an inner calling is that when I lost in 2013, I was so down. 2017, people came and told me, Jane, you need to come back. We want to support you. You're going to win this time. And I remember telling them, no, I need to first reorganize myself, and I'm not interested in vying this particular time. So for me, I thought that spirit had died off and gone completely.
Yeah, you thought you had learned your lesson.
Exactly, well. And I was like, I can help people. In fact, you console yourself. You're like, see, I'm still helping people. I'm still supporting people. What I wanted to win this seat for was to help people, and I'm doing it. But one day you wake up and you're like, no, these people are not where I wanted them to be.
Wow.
They're still not getting what I wanted them to get. So again, I was like, I've not finished my work. Let me just get back and do what I'm supposed to do.
Wow.
So that's how I arrived at my decision to go back to politics.
Glory to God. And
yes.
so what do you want to achieve in the next, as you vie?
Yeah.
That time it was about equity in all the opportunities that government gives.
Yeah.
And right now we have the 30%. What is your agenda right now? What is it that you want to sell to the masses?
No, during my last campaign, I used to call it the 3 E's.
Yeah.
And that was the equality, which you've already mentioned. And the other one was economic empowerment and education. And what I used to feel so challenged about my area, and I'm sure you've heard a lot about Laikipia County.
Yeah.
But when it comes to academics, unfortunately, it took so long for us to have secondary schools in our area.
Oh.
So you'll find that our people have lagged a bit behind. So even when it comes to university admissions, we are still on the behind in terms of that. Then you look at even maybe our transition from primary school to secondary school, you see we'll transition at 96%, but those who go to secondary school are 60%. Reason being, we are in a town where we have a lot of tourism, we're in a town where there's a lot of horticultural farms. So due to lack of role models, these people tend to think the role model is the lady who is being paid 200 bob every day.
I know.
So you'll find people drop out at Form 1, Form 2 to join these flower farms. But we need to get into a system where our people realize this is short-lived.
Yes.
You can be at that flower farm, but you won't go so far. But with education, you can still manage to achieve more. So that is one of the things that I really wanted to push on in regard to education. And then the second thing was economic empowerment.
Yes.
I also come from a county where the youth bracket is the highest.
Oh.
And unfortunately, majority of our youth don't have work. They don't have employment. So for me, what I was looking at is to empower polytechnics and get to a point where anybody in the world, anybody in the country, anybody in Africa, when you want a good welder, you come to Laikipia County.
Oh,
when you want a good plumber, you come to Laikipia County, because we may lack the academic skills, but we could have the technical skills, which everybody is looking for. You need somebody to do perfect tile work, that is a place to go to. So those are some of the ideas I was looking at with my county. And then, of course, Laikipia has so much potential, even as a tourist destination.
Yes, it does.
We still see all our tourists going to Masai Mara. So you can imagine how many job opportunities have been created with the hotels there. So for me, I was also hoping we market our county in a different way, that we now shift the attention from Masai Mara, because we also have the big 5 in Laikipia.
I know we do.
And we get people coming out to our county, where our youth, our women, our PWDs will get a lot of empowerment and jobs from that.
Wow. I can tell you're a politician by blood. This is was any of your parents a politician or leaders somewhere? Of course, being a teacher, definitely.
Yes.
But do they have anything special? Like, do you have a history of politicians?
In our family, we don't. But my mom is a church leader, and she has been ever her since.
Yeah.
And of course, when you hear her speak, you see a politician in her.
I can
that
tell.
maybe she didn't get the opportunity.
Wow,
Yes,
how
yes.
beautiful.
Yeah.
So we're almost coming to the close of the program, and I would want you to challenge a woman there who feels like they're down there economically, emotionally, they're heartbroken, they feel they are sidelined because they are single.
Yes.
And just encourage them and challenge them that in spite of what is surrounding them, that they still can rise up and pursue their dream. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. My encouragement to a woman who may be out there going through tough times would be, first of all, make God your confidant.
Wow.
Because during my lowest moments, the one thing that kept me going is making God my confidant. And there are days I would be so low. And I would tell him, God, please, I need energy.
Amen.
Today, I'm going to meet this person, and I need confidence, I need energy, I need all that. So the number one thing, and I keep challenging people, there are things we tell our best friend.
Yeah.
Like we tell them, I don't like that person, I don't what.
Yeah.
I keep telling people, tell God those things. He'll start changing them around, softening your heart and doing things differently. Because even when we are going through problems, it is only God who can make us strong.
He's the only reliable friend.
Everybody around you will be there telling you. In fact, I remember when I was going through my worst times, I had a friend who had the audacity to tell me, Jane, don't you think you're cursed? And I was like, are these the people I need to be listening to?
Wow.
And in the midst of all that, and again, the second point I would want to say, apart from making God your confidant, is see the good things that are happening around you.
Oh, great.
Because I remember even when I was, like, I'll give you an incident after I lost the elections. I remember my car getting burnt because of a technical fault. And what happened about this car is I was not the one driving it. So when we went to put fuel in the car, because I was driving another car, then I told the mechanic, you drive my car home. When we were putting the fuel, I remember telling the attendant, please put 2,000 shillings. Then I told him, don't put any money, don't put any fuel in that car. He looked at me and told me, nyinyi wanawake. But shortly after, my car was on fire. And it couldn't blow up because no fuel had been put in the car. The fuel tank was dry. So you see, to anybody, they would have said, Jane, your car has burnt.
Yeah.
To me, I looked at it and I was like, number one, I was not in that car.
Yeah.
Because I normally put on my seat belt, the mechanic had not put. So when somebody showed him that car was on fire, he was able to jump out.
Wow.
Number two, the car tried to explode, it couldn't because the fuel tank was dry. So when somebody is telling me, do you think you are cursed? Me, I'm like, no. God was there.
I am so favored by God.
Exactly.
Wow.
So there are situations we find ourselves in, and I would say let's look at the silver lining on the whole situation rather than looking at the worst part of it. Because anytime, even when I was going through my lowest moments, I realized you are not the worst.
Yeah.
You'll think you've not eaten a meal. There's somebody who last saw a meal yesterday.
Yeah.
So you're still favored by God.
So positivity is key.
Positivity is very, very much key in all this.
Wow.
And last but not least, never ever give up.
Wow.
Ever. Even when it looks so sad, never ever give up.
Amen.
Yes.
Wow, I love your spirit. Quite a fighter as you are. She's the only girl that I've had that her fist, when she was born, her fist was like this. It means that whatever life has to take on, she's ready. And I believe that is the strength that God gives us. That even though we feel like life is not treating us well, as long as you don't give up, God has a way out. And she's told us three things. Remain grounded in God, remain positive, and never give up. And those are our closing remarks. Share with your friends, let them know that the Gorgeous Woman Show is airing, and we are always delighted to have you. In case you have your story, we are ready to hear it. And from me and my guest Jane is God bless you and bye-bye.